Alabama Public Health Training Network. I'm Brandon Vaughn with the Alabama Department of Public Health. Thank you for joining us today for our program, Engaging and Educating Parents on Safe Sleep and Car Safety for Their Young Children. If you have a question about anything being discussed today, please call or email during our broadcast. The phone number and email address are on your screen now and will appear later again in the program. Also, the handouts and evaluation are available online. You will need to register for this program in order to access those materials. Continuing education credits have been approved for nurses and social workers for this program. In order to receive credit for this training, you must watch the entire program, then complete and return the sign-in sheet and evaluation. If you are watching this program on demand and want to receive a social work CE certificate, you will need to complete the social work test and send it in, along with your sign-in sheet and evaluation. If you are watching this program live, there is no social work test required. For social workers, if you're watching this program live, it qualifies for classroom hours. If you are watching on demand, it is qualified as non-classroom hours. Before we get started, I would like to introduce our presenters today. Michelle Marty, Healthy Families Program Manager of the National Children's Advocacy Center, and Tara Ba, Healthy Families Home Visitor with the National Children's Advocacy Center. Welcome to you both. I know we have a lot of important information to cover today, so let's go ahead and get started with your presentation.
There we go. All right. Thank you, everybody. Welcome. And hope everybody's having a good afternoon and staying safe with the weather stuff. Tara and I are really honored to have the chance to come and talk about these important safety subjects today. She and I have both worked at the Children's Advocacy Center for over 25 years, and we are working with the Healthy Families Program, which is a home visitation program for at-risk parents. We go into the home when COVID's not happening, and we talk to new parents before their baby's born or in that first 3 months. We start working with them and really talk about all this safety stuff and child development and really just try to support them in being the best parents they can be. All right, today's training, our training intentions are that we really want to go over the best practices for risk reduction strategies. We recognize so many of you are with child death review teams. We recognize your expertise and appreciate your service in this field. It's a really tough job, and we support your work. It helps all of us to help protect more babies. We want to share resources with you to help support your prevention efforts and discuss strategies to address resistance, because that's a big issue in getting these best practices out there, as there's some resistance to it. And we want to share resources and responses to help you help grieving families. A really tough part of your job when you're talking to families who have lost a baby. A little bit of history about safe sleep for babies. Back in 1992, we learned that it was safer to put our babies on their backs. Before then, the information had always told us that tummy sleeping was safest. And I grew up babysitting, and with that information, I'm probably a little older than a lot of you. And so I always put babies on their tummies to go to sleep. That was the best we knew at that time. In 1992, when they started first publishing the information about back sleeping being the safest, my youngest was 3 weeks old. And I tell you, SIDS was something I really feared. I had always checked with my first one and with the little one, make sure they were breathing. It was just a terrible fear to me to lose your baby in that way. And so I put him on his back. We followed that, even though he wasn't used to it. He got used to it. So that campaign and the Back to Sleep initiative and began moving forward in 1994 then. And as we learned and saw so many more babies, so many less babies dying from SIDS, we started paying attention, noticing that they were dying more from unsafe sleep conditions, co-sleeping in the same bed, and lots of stuff in the crib, suffocation and asphyxia kinds of deaths. So the campaign changed more to this safe to sleep, looking at baby sleep environments too. And since the implementation of Back to Sleep in 1992, SIDS deaths have decreased by over 50%, a big, significant amount. A lot of babies safer. I wanted to talk about these two terms that are used. Most people are really familiar with SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. We used to call it crib death or cot death, and it's the sudden unexplained death of a baby under age 1, and that we don't know the cause. Even after investigation and autopsy and the whole history, that there's no cause to determine it. So SIDS falls into the category of SUID, sudden unexpected infant deaths. And that again is a sudden unexplained death of a baby under a year, but the cause was not obvious before the investigation. So SUID deaths include, the unsafe sleep conditions where babies were suffocated or against the mattress and the asphyxiation happened. So more deaths are being termed SUID now than even SIDS, because SIDS has reduced so very much. I'm going to start out with information. I want to go through the American Academy of Pediatrics policy statement. This was updated. The most recent recommendations came out from them in 2016. I wonder, for those of you out there, if you would try to think about how many, can you name at least 5 of those recommendations? For some of you, you might be well versed in these and know them, but I didn't want to not include them today. I think we're going to go through them pretty quickly, because they are the basis for safety for kids sleeping. The report found that approximately 3,500 infants are still dying annually in our country from sleep-related infant deaths, including SIDS. And 79% of those deaths, the vast majority, those babies were in unsafe sleep situations, whether put on their tummy or sleeping with an adult or with all sorts of things in their bed. The 19 recommendations are out there for all of us who care about infants, but the final 4 ones are really directed towards policymakers and professionals. And these recommendations don't tell us what causes SID or indeed how to prevent it. For sure, the recommendations are about risk reduction. If we do these recommendations with babies, if we use these strategies, less babies die from SIDS. The first one is back to sleep, just from the first campaign. Infants need to be put on their back for every sleep. That means every nap, every bedtime, they always need to be put back on on their back. At first, the recommendations back in 1992 said on the side was okay, but we found that side sleeping wasn't safe either, because babies tend to fall on their tummy and have their face can be planted against that mattress and not have the neck strength to move their head to get a clean breath of air. So no side sleeping, no tummy sleeping, always put on their backs. When babies start to roll over, parents will ask, what do I do when they start to roll over? They've built up some muscle strength and core strength to where they can roll over, and that's okay. If they roll over, you don't have to roll them back, but you still want to continue to put them down on their back for every sleep. The second important recommendation is that the infant have a firm sleep surface. And this is a firm mattress that reaches all the way firmly, fits into the crib or other sleeping device, and with a tight fitted sheet. No other bedding or soft objects to reduce SIDS and suffocation. That surface really must be firm. No memory foam, no soft mattresses, no cushions like on the couch. Those are dangerous for baby, really increase the risk of suffocation. Babies need to sleep in a crib or bassinet or play yard that really does conform to the Consumer Product Safety Commission standards. And anyone who has a bed or is purchasing ones need to check that site of CPSC for safety standards and for that particular model. Make sure there's not a recall and that it is a safe model. We know that cribs need to fit, follow certain specifications for safety. And it was in 1990 that those were put into law, that all manufacturers had to follow safety things. So mattresses or cribs that were made before then probably aren't safe and need to be gotten rid of. A crib that has broken parts you don't need to use. Drop sides aren't safe, and they need to really fit that snug mattress, and the slats be just right for a certain amount for the baby. If you have an old mattress that has any damage or an old crib or a crib that is broken, don't use it. You need to destroy it and get rid of it. You don't want someone else to pick it up off the street and use it. It's important that there be no soft materials in the bed. Babies don't need pillows. They don't need blankets. Those sheepskins that look so soft to sleep on, those are all unsafe for babies. They really increase the risk of suffocation. So that area that their crib is put should also be free of hazards like no dangling cords and things like that to avoid any strangulation risk. And we want to never let them sleep in swings or other sitting devices like their car seats or strollers. What happens is they're put in a sitting up position, and the risk is that the baby's head will fall forward. And we have to remember how narrow their breathing airway is, just about the size of a straw, and it's really easy if they're bent forward to cut that airway off and be dangerous for them. So if they fall asleep in one of those devices, we have to pick them up and move them to put them on their back to be safe. These are just some unsafe sleep places for babies. Couches are a big danger area, and so many babies are lost, die, getting pinned between the adult and the couch, or suffocate against the couch. I always was creeped out by babies sleeping face down on a couch because I think so many people sit there, and that's just, you don't want to put your baby on that anyway. So never put them to sleep on a couch. All right, we're going to move on to some other ones. The third one is breastfeeding is recommended. That just sounds like, a good, healthy thing. We know that's all good for baby for the nutrition and bonding. But breastfeeding is also connected to a reduction in risk of SIDS. It provides a protection for baby. So it's best if mothers breastfeed exclusively for at least 6 months to a year, but any amount of dose of breastfeeding helps reduce the risk of SIDS. The fourth recommendation is that infants sleep in their parents' room. AAP recommends that they sleep in the room close to the parent's bed, but in their own bed for at least the first 6 months. Up to the year is best. Room sharing shows a decrease of SIDS by as much as 50%. It's a big deal. You can pay attention and get to your baby easier. You can look over at them. But the big point about this is that we're sharing the room. We're not sharing the bed, because sleeping together with the baby is extremely dangerous. Bed sharing's unsafe. It's the risk for death due to SIDS and suffocation increases tremendously when parents sleep with the baby in their bed. They usually have pillows. People can roll over on them. They can get shuffled down fall between the bed and the wall, and they can also get tangled down in the blankets or covers, sheets, and suffocate. So this is a picture of safe sleep environment. Baby's in the room with mom on the bed in an empty crib, and mom can lay there and look at them. Some also risk of bed sharing, or the risk of death for babies. Bed sharing significantly increases if that baby is younger than 4 months. We know that the high at 90% of SIDS deaths happen before babies are 6 months, and that birth to 4 is a really dangerous time for them. If the infant is sleeping with a smoker, it increases the risk for dying of SIDS. If the adult is impaired, increases the risk of death. If the infant is sharing the bed with someone other than their parent or another child, and if the bed sharing is done on a soft, dangerous mattress, waterbed, couch, etc. So no bed sharing is best. Number 5 recommendation is we want no soft objects or loose bedding in the crib. We need to keep the stuffed animals out, extra blankets out of the crib to reduce that death from SIDS, suffocation, entrapment, and strangulation, all risks with those other things put in the bed. That baby's supposed to be alone in his crib, no stuffed animals, and even no bumper pads. Now, that was one that I have to admit I had a little bit of hard time because I thought, well, bumper pads, they keep the baby from banging his head against the crib sides. They were started as a safety measure, but babies are still dying in accidents with bumper pads. They suffocate, they become entangled in them. So let's leave even though they're pretty, let's leave them out of the crib and keep our babies safe. So no stuffed animals, no toys, babies alone in the crib. All these things can obstruct the nose and cause the baby to suffocate. You can find a lot of pictures like these out there to share with families, and an easy way to remember it is ABC. Babies should be alone on their back in an empty crib on that tight mattress. So the ABCs are a really cool and easy way to remember it. Going on, continuing with our recommendations, the number 6 one is offer a pacifier. AAP is encouraging parents to consider offering pacifiers to babies, both at nap time and at bedtime. There seems to be a protective effect of babies get in pacifier and do some sucking on it, and we're not sure if that helps build some muscles within their mouth and neck, but it provides a protective effect. And that even if it falls out, you don't have to go put it back in. Just to start out the nap with it is good. The 7th recommendation is no smoking. No smoking during the pregnancy, after the birth, for mom, and anybody in the house, in the baby's environment. That both maternal smoking and smoking in the home are major risk factors of SIDS and breathing problems for babies. So the risk really increases if that baby's sleeping in the same bed with a smoker. So no smoking around the babies. It's also important, number 8, for no alcohol or illicit drug use. Mothers should avoid, and we know health-wise mothers should avoid it anyway, but these things are linked with increasing SIDS deaths too. Number 9, we need to avoid overheating in the baby and don't need to put head coverings on them. Studies show that there's an increase of risk in SIDS when the baby's overheated while sleeping. And too often we really worry about babies getting cold, so we put them in lots of layers and bundle them up, and they can get too hot, and that's not good for risk. They need to be cooler at nighttime. Dress them, appropriate for sleeping in the environment, similar to what you might be wearing. Maybe one extra layer, a baby sleeper is good, or there's blanket sleepers that are safe. You can turn the air down in the room in the house to keep it just a little bit cooler. We don't want them cool. And you can always check the baby to make sure they're not sweating, red, overheated. We want them to be cooler and comfortable, not increased in heat. And when we put them on their tummies, all of us tend to get hotter when we sleep on our stomach. The 10th recommendation is that pregnant women get prenatal care. Again, we know this is just a healthy thing that babies need, but the evidence really links a lower deaths of SIDS for infants whose mothers received regular recommended prenatal care. The 11th one, some people thought that there was a causal relationship at one time between immunizations and SIDS, but that is not true. There's no evidence supporting that. We want babies to be immunized according to the recommendations of AAP and CDC, and the evidence supports that babies who are immunized, have their vaccinations, that they also have lower cases of SIDS. It provides a protective effect, good health for them too. The 12th one is avoiding commercial devices. None of these devices have the recommendation of the Food and Drug Association. They've asked that if people have an item that they think works, that to submit the research for it. But we need to be very wary of any devices that claim to reduce the risk, because none of them have proven it. Some of these include wedges and positioners. Babies can turn into that wedge or positioner and suffocate. Sometimes people will put those in the adult bed to separate from the infant, but have them in their bed. And again, if it's something that the baby can press their face against or get smooshed up against, that's a danger. Sometimes some places have put out special crib mattresses saying that they're more safe, that the babies can breathe safer on them, that there's less germs and that kind of thing. And these have not been proven to have any kind of protective effect. We do want that mattress to be firm so that baby's face, when it's down, to help with keeping babies safe. But two, that the risk is on the tummy is that when the baby's face is pressed down into the mattress, that the carbon dioxide that they're exhaling just fills around their face and they don't get the oxygen they need, and they're at risk of dying. So you can check out all those products again on the CPSC website. If anything has changed or they're recommended. As of this time, nothing has been, and you can really save your money. They're not proven to work. Number 13 talks about the use of medical home monitors. Unless that your doctor recommends it, you don't need to use a home monitor that measures the baby's cardio and respiratory monitors. It does not have any evidence that it reduces SIDS. Even looking at babies who've been in the NICU and on monitors, that the evidence didn't support that it helped reduce their incidence of SIDS. So medical monitors aren't a solution there either. The fourth recommendation that is something neat you can do and baby needs is tummy time. This is the only time to put baby on the tummy, when you're supervising them, when the baby's awake. And tummy time is a great activity that we talk about and promote with all of our parents, because it promotes the development of their core muscles and their neck muscles, helps them to be able to hold their head up, and really strengthens them. Some people also use it. They're concerned about the head flattening on the baby from laying so much on their back. And so this is by giving the baby more time on their tummy, sitting up, looking around, building its strength. It gives less time against that head, and really builds baby's strength to help protect him so he can move his head to get those good breaths when he's sleeping and can roll over on his tummy. So tummy time is a good one. Number 15, it says that there's no evidence that swaddling babies helps decrease the risk of SIDS. Swaddling is a strategy that's used to comfort a lot of babies. It's used a lot with newborn or premature babies, because it really comforts them, holding their arms in. And so you can use it for calming a baby. And if you put the baby on their back, it's extra dangerous if you put a swaddled infant on his stomach. It really holds his arms in and everything. So the risks go up for SIDS. Swaddling needs to be stopped by the time the baby is 4, 5, 6 months old, when you suspect that they're about to start rolling over, because we don't want babies to roll over swaddled and, again, increase that risk that they will be pinned to the mattress, not able to use their arms. So no evidence that swaddling helps reduce the risk of SIDS, but it is a great technique for calming babies. So those are the 15 recommendations that are for those of us taking care of babies and interacting with babies. And they need to be known by everybody, the babysitter, the grandparents, both parents, everybody who loves and cares for that baby needs to know that this is the way we take care of our babies. Number 16 talks about, the last 4 are geared towards professionals, and that healthcare professionals and hospitals need to model, endorse, and teach safe sleep methods. If they see moms see their babies in the bassinet in the hospital on their backs, they're much more likely to put them on their backs at home. If they see them placed on their tummy, they think, well, the hospital did it, so I can do it too. And we want to model all the best safe sleep practices for them. So hospitals and healthcare professionals can really help do that. It called for media and manufacturers to follow and promote the safe sleep guidelines with their products and their messaging and their pictures of their products and all of that. Important for people to see the normalization of safe sleep environments. 18, we want to continue the Safe Sleep campaign, focusing on ways to reduce all sleep-related deaths. Pediatricians should be part of the campaign, and especially sharing the information with their patients. A special focus needs to be included on the higher risks for American Indian babies, Alaskan Native, and African American babies. Their risks for SIDS and other sleep-related deaths are much higher, about 50% higher than Caucasian and Hispanic babies. And the Asian babies are at the lower risk. A lot of the Asian countries put their babies on their back already. That's part of where we learned that. So we want to be sure and get this information out to a variety of families, cultures, and talk to them about what are the reasons they don't use this, make sure they understand the importance of it. The 19th recommendation includes research. That research on SIDS and prevention should continue so that one day, with our ultimate goal, we will eliminate the deaths of these, because every one of these deaths hurts. Every baby is loved by somebody, and people mourn when that baby is lost. Also, this encourages funding and training for the child death review teams. It's such important work that looking at each death to see how can we learn to prevent this and what's happening with our babies. It has a prevention measure for the future. All right, so we kind of flew through all of those recommendations. They're super important, and we all need to know of them and be aware of them, so that we can teach them and share them. All right, strategies to address resistance. I wrote down some of the reasons people give for not doing them, including my family has always put babies to sleep on their stomachs, and we all turned out fine. And in addressing that, well, we know that we've learned more information and that most babies may be okay with it, but you do not want your baby to be the one that dies of SIDS on their tummy. So it's just not worth the risk. My baby likes sleeping on her stomach, and they actually do sleep sounder on their tummies. It's just not safe for them. They can go into a deeper sleep and not awaken to get their breath. People say the experts are always changing the way they tell us how to care for our babies, and that might feel true. But again, normalize that we just keep learning, and we want to do the best for babies. Some parents say that my baby's safer sleeping in the bed with me. I believe I can keep him safe. And that's a real feeling that a lot of parents feel, that if he's right here by me, I won't roll over on him. I can make sure he's breathing and keep him safe. But it's a false sense of security and safety. So many babies are dying in bed with their parents, and what a traumatic experience that would be. And another one is, I don't have a crib for my baby. Well, I guess I'd just like to encourage all of you to be aware of resources that help with cribs, to look on the website Cribs for Kids and see who in your area helps with free cribs. You can check online with your 211 for information in your area about cribs for babies, because we don't want to lose another baby because they don't have a safe sleep place. It's important, as we're addressing resistance, that parents and caregivers hear the safe sleep recommendations over and over many times. The more repetition, they're reminded reminded about it, it becomes more the norm, that this is what they expect and this is what they do. So the message needs to be repeated. So we need to have it out there in a lot of different ways for parents, with pediatricians talking about it, with people in the hospital, with birthing classes talking about it, just to keep that message repeated and heard. Parents need us to share the why behind the safe sleep and breastfeeding recommendations. That part is sometimes left out, as this is the way to do it. This is a better way. Why? They need to hear and they want to know, because babies, against their face against that mattress, they don't get enough oxygen and they can suffocate and die. Because babies sleeping with parents are choked or suffocated in the bed. Share the why with parents. That's why I tried to go over some of that. And you can also look up a lot of the reasons why, more information on all of the recommendations. It's really important. The way you say it matters. You want to share information with respect and for people's culture and beliefs, and with kindness and with concern for them and their baby. If the message comes through as kind and caring, they are more likely to hear it. You want to take the time to listen to the parents' concerns and beliefs, show them the respect of that. And you want to be sure and include fathers in safe sleep education. Just like babies, we know that the research has shown that fathers who support breastfeeding and those families' moms are more likely to breastfeed because he believes in it and he's supporting her and helping her with it. Well, when dads know all the safe sleep recommendations, they'll support, mom and dad can both support each other and both do the same thing and remind the other when something doesn't look safe. So be sure and include dads in all the safe sleep education. And for you all that are working out in the field with families and the child death review teams especially, you can share some real life stories. Babies really are dying in these conditions, and each one is a traumatic thing for the family. If you don't know of anybody or haven't worked with anybody, there's some really excellent YouTube information that families share what happened with them, because they don't want this to happen to other babies and to other families to know this loss. This is a response that I use, and it's based on the way Healthy Families, we try to help people come to a different way of thinking about something. And I might say to people, when I was growing up, I was always told with babies to place them on their tummies to sleep. And that was the safest way we knew at that time to keep babies safe. But as researchers in our country learned that babies were dying significantly less in other countries because they were being put to sleep on their back, we were advised to begin this practice. And it has reduced infant deaths by over 50%, a big amount. When my babies were little, I was so terrified that they would die from SIDS, so I wanted to use that newer, safer way. And I encourage you to think about it too. So that's one way you can respond, looking at, we used to believe this, but now we have this information and we can do it this way and keep our babies safer. There, at the beginning of this year, an app was rolled out to help promote safe sleep. Physicians from Rutgers Robert Wood Johnson Medical School teamed up with Microsoft to develop this Baby Be Well app. And the lead engineer at Microsoft, he had lost his son to SIDS, and this was something he wanted to do and get out there to help other parents, other babies not be lost, and other parents not go through what he had done. So it's a really cool and free app. It's interactive, and it shares lots of information on safe sleep. It acts as a virtual baby book, so mom can put in pictures of the baby and record milestones, and you can connect other caregivers, grandparents and all, to the app so that they can see what's going on with the baby, and they too receive all these repeated messages about safe sleep. Again, the message is repeated, keeps coming, and we're getting it to more family members. There's a lot of resources for information on SIDS and safe sleep out there. I've included the AAP and the CDC. Both of them have really family-friendly information, great information in neat colors and easy to read and understand, as well as these other ones here too. So I encourage you to look at them and use information from them with families. All right, I have put this in, these videos in the training, but I really want, we were encouraged to, we're not going to look at them today, but I'd love for you to take the time and look at them. They're both really good. Oops. I didn't mean to do that. Okay. All right, we'll go to the next slide. One of those stories tells about the Charlie's Kids Foundation, and this was the couple, Dr. Sam and Maura Hank. He's a pediatric cardiologist, and they had their baby in 2010, little Charlie Paul. And when Charlie was just about a month old, Dad came home from work, was going to give Mom a little break, and he sat on the couch to watch TV, and he fell asleep, and the baby was on his chest and fell asleep too. In the morning, he woke up, but Charlie didn't. And they were devastated by this loss. And he's a pediatrician. He said that when you come home from the hospital, you're given all this information about babies, but you don't have time to read it. And nobody really thinks that a baby in their arms could be unsafe. So they started a foundation in Charlie's name on his first birthday, and they've got a lot of great information on their website and their story. And I love this book that they developed. It's a great book that I would love it if we gave it to all parents. It's like just a wonderful, beautiful, pictured little book about bedtime. And it can be read to the baby every night, and it just reminds about baby's put to bed in his nice crib, and he doesn't sleep with these things. It's a lovely reminder to help our families. So I admire that there's so many people that try to learn from the tragedy they've been through and try to help other people. Another thing that Dr. Hank is big on is social messaging, social media messaging, and the dads. He talks about on Instagram and Facebook. There's so many pictures posted of dads falling asleep with their babies, and that it sends a dangerous message. We don't want to give them do lots of likes on it. We don't want to slam them or shame them, but we want to address that this is an unsafe sleep. And when I look at it, I feel like I'm looking at an unsafe sleep environment. The one on the bottom, the baby is sleeping with her dad, and pillows are in the bed and stuffed animals and blankets, and she is on her back. That's good, but it's dangerous. So watching that social messaging stuff. How can we support grieving parents? We know that it is a devastating loss. It's always been said that losing a child is the worst loss that we can experience, and that none of us want to be a part of that club. And frequently for parents who've had a baby die of SIDS or unsafe sleep, they frequently are experiencing a lot of guilt as well as their shame, their sadness. Recognize that people grieve in so many different ways, that it's a very personalized journey, and that there's no set timetable for everybody. We all do it in our own way, but life will never be the same. You never get over that loss of that child. It's always with you. You always remember them, but that hopefully you begin some healing to move forward. You want to be sure and accept and validate the parents' many feelings, because they are going to change a lot. Some ways that you can support them are keeping your words simple, honest, and comforting. I don't know what the right words are, but I care so much about you and your family. And again, I'm going to say, don't forget about Dad. Grieving fathers are often left out of the support. That people will even come up to Dad and say, "How is your wife doing?" or "How is your other little girl doing?" But let's ask about Dad too. He's hurting too, and we want to support him. Some other ways of supporting parents: very often listening is enough. Allow them to talk about the baby, and you talk about the baby by name. You can sit with a parent, hold their hand, give them a hug, allow them to cry and share their feelings, and be sure and acknowledge their pain. There are some not to do's, not to say's. Unless you've lost a child, you don't need to say, "I know just how you feel." That doesn't, the parent is really ready to jump up and say, "No, you don't." Don't tell them that they'll get over it in time, that it's God's will or for the best, or the one where you can always have a baby, another baby, you're young. These don't offer comfort. Also, keep your faith, beliefs, and cliches to yourself. And I don't mean that to sound harsh. If you and know the parent, you share the same beliefs, going to church and all, there's some things you can definitely share and save that will comfort both of you. But if you don't push forward with things that they may be hurtful to the person. And avoid talking about trivial things, weather, gossip. They're really not interested in that right now. Your silence and your presence and your support are more helpful. There's some good resources available for grieving family. First Candle is one that's been around a long time. They changed their name along the way, but they offer support for those families who've lost babies to SID, stillborn, miscarriage, 24-hour telephone line that they can call, and these online support groups, and lots of information parents can go to. So I would always recommend to give that to families. Compassionate Friends is another that offers a lot of support, and they're for parents who have lost a child of any age, not just babies. These are some additional ones. Charlie's Kids, Share Pregnancy and Infant Loss Support, Sudden Unexplained Infant Death and Childhood Foundation. There's some really good resources out there, and I hope you all will look them up and share them with families. So I'm going to move aside, and my coworker Tara Ba is going to come on board and do car seat safe.
It went a lot smoother when we listen. All right, can you hear me? Okay. Hi, like you said, my name is Tara, and I too have been with the Advocacy Center for more than 25 years and work with a lot of families. So I'm going to talk to you today about car seat safety. And one of the reasons we need to discuss car seat safety is for the stats that you see here. This is from the CDC in 2017. You see 675 children, 12 and under, died as occupants in a motor vehicle crash. And of the children that were 12 years and younger that died in the crash, 35% were not buckled up. So that's a high number, considering this is something that may have been prevented simply by having children properly restrained in cars. And so what I want to talk to you today is about what are some of the things that we can do to encourage families to do this. So first, we're going to start out with, it says 8 common mistakes, thanks Michelle, that families make when talking about child restraint. 8 common mistakes that families make when we're talking about car seat safety. One is they don't properly install the car seat. And we see this a lot with families. It's not buckled in correctly. I worked with a mom once who actually put the car seat in the car, put her child in the car seat, and then pulled the seat belt all around the car seat and the child. So the child wasn't even buckled into the car seat. So it's important that families learn how to properly install the car seat. Turning the car seat too soon. When my daughter was young, they changed the rules and said that children should be rear facing through the age of 2, until the age of 2. And that again changed. It was to the age of 1 when my daughter was small. So I got the chance to leave her that way. And she's a tall girl. She's always been off the chart when it comes to height. And she had no problems keeping with being rear facing through the age of 2. And So it's important to do that. I thought that was just recommended by the AAP, but I did call my local law enforcement and found out it is the law now that children stay rear facing through the age of 2. The other one is that families don't use the tether in the car. And this is probably the least known safety feature of the car seats. And it's listed in the rules. If you can read the car seat installation information, is in there. And as of 2001, I believe every car has a locking feature so that you can attach a tether to it. Another one is the harness, the loosening of the harness, which also goes to the second one, the one up under there, which is bulky clothes. That's when they don't put the belts really close to the baby. It's not tight enough. And a lot of times this is because parents care. They don't want them to feel too tight. They don't want them to feel so closed in. But you have to have it close to the child's body in order for them to be safe. And one of the rules I saw that if you can actually pinch any of the belt up, then it's too loose. And when it comes to the bulky clothes, especially during wintertime, when they have those nice big thick coats, you really want to make sure that you take the coat off before you put the child in the car seat, because those big puffy coats, once you put the belt on, even if you have it tight and secure, it will collapse some while you're moving, and so eventually the belts will be loose and it really won't provide the protection that the child needs. Let's see, the improper car seat size. And I can say this happened myself. I kept an eye on my daughter's car seat size. I kept an eye to make sure that we were always within the weight limits on the car seat. Again, she was really tall for her height. So once she passed the height of her booster seat, I took her out and put her in the car restraint. But really, because of her age, she was still a little bit too young to have the regular car seat restraint. So I had to get what's known as a bigger car seat size. And so it's really important that you keep an eye on what the proper size is. And it's just recommended, just put it in. If you have little ones, just put it in your phone. Every 2 or 3 months, make sure you check the size of your child's car seat and make sure you're still within the recommendation. Go back, I keep hitting it. And this is one, unknown history. You have to know the history of the car seat, because if the car seat has been in any type of crash, you have to replace it. Insurance companies know that. You can turn it into them. They generally cut the belt so it can't be resold at thrift stores. Even though I still see them at thrift stores being sold, you do still need to know the history of the car seat. And when I first started in this, the rule was if you were in a crash above 15 miles an hour, but I was in a crash when my little one was young, and now it's if you're in any car crash and the car seat is attached to the car, you need to have it replaced. And again, insurance companies know about this, so families shouldn't have any problem with it. And one of the last ones, and this one also goes to crib safety, you want to make sure that you send in the registration card. That's really important because that's how you find out about recalls and any issues that the crib may have. The car seats may have. You can go to Walmart and they have a list of recalls that are on car seats. So it happens a lot more than families might think. So the best thing to do is always turn in your registration card. Just fill it out. Most of the time, you don't even have to apply a stamp, and mail it in, and then if anything happens, you'll get a response back. So next, why do we normally get resistance from families? Why do they normally not want to use a car seat? And again, I've worked with a lot of families over the years, so I've heard a lot of stories. One of the biggest ones is the history. It's just, I've never used a car seat. My aunt never used a car seat. There's no reason for me to use a car seat. Maybe the child has been out of a car seat, and now we're saying, well, he's 4 and still technically needs to be in a seat. And it's just a history. It worked for them. And with that, you have to validate families with all of these that we're going to talk about, because what they're saying is real. Maybe nobody in their family has ever been in a car accident, and so they really do believe that they don't need it. The next one is lack of knowledge. Maybe the family simply don't know better. You don't know that a 5 or 6-year-old still may require a car seat. Even the rear facing, we're having that a lot. A lot of families are still turning their children around when they turn 1 or hit 20 pounds. And you want to make sure that they know now, like I said, I learned the law says that they have to stay rear facing to the age of 2. The next one is child complaints. And this is probably the biggest one I hear, that my child don't like being in a car seat. They don't want to go. And I'm telling you, I had this also when I took my daughter out of her booster seat. And then I went and had her checked and found out she still should have been in a booster seat. If you can imagine what I heard when I told her she had to go back into a booster seat, it wasn't a nice experience. So I do understand this. But for most of the families that I've worked with, when they say that my child doesn't like it and they complain all the time, I say, if you show me a child that don't want to be in a car seat, I can find you a parent who's not consistently putting their child in a car seat. So it's really important that you always use the car seat. And the next one is funds, and it kind of goes under resources too. They simply don't have the money. You know, little Billy is going to use Big Bob's car seat, even though Big Bob is 17 and used it 17 years ago, simply because the family can't afford to get a new one. And that's just a fact of life with some of the families that we work with, especially with the population I serve, low income. And then the last one is the resources. I come from a really small town in Alabama, a really rural community, and it is nothing to see a truck riding down the road with about 3 or 4 kids on the back, because dad need a truck to haul his equipment for work, and they can't afford a car for the family. So again, these are some of the reasons, and you know, the issue is, how do you help families when you hear these stories? And a lot of it relates to what Michelle said earlier about talking to families about back to sleep. You know, you want to validate that whatever they're saying is real. You know, if their child's complaining, all of this is real. You want to be kind to them when you share the information. You want to make sure that, oh, there I go again. You want to make sure that they are not, you're not being mean, because a lot of families, and I really do believe families want the best for their child. But again, these are just some of the resistance. So I like to follow up with statistics. You know, it's easy to say, you know, this is not Tara's. This is not just what I'm saying. This is what statistics are showing us, how important it is and how many children can be saved if they're in car seats. Also, you can share stories. We talk a lot about stories, and you can look in the newspaper almost, you know, any week and find out, or online, and find a case where a child has been injured in a car seat. And then they'll put in there, child wasn't restrained or something. So it's always great to share stories with families. And I like to get the kids involved. For some of the older children that we work with, I like to tell the kids, make sure you're buckled up. You know, if you tell me you've buckled up all week, I can give you a sticker. And this also works with keeping parents and seatbelts. You know, it's real important that your parents buckle up, and kids will tell me, oh, he keeps telling me to put on my seatbelt now. So it's great to get the child involved. A lot of times they'll be more responsible than some of the parents. And, you know, last but not least, if you want to, you can use guilt. You know, just tell them, oh, how horrible would you feel if something happened, and you know, all it took was a little click to protect your child. So it's really important to make sure that you share all of this and you respond to the families in a kind way is the top thing that I want. I guess my time is kind of next, we want to know what works when it comes to car seat safety. And so one is that we want to educate the families, make sure we are not just educating the families, but anybody who have access to children, anybody who see children in cars. You may want to go to car dealerships and make sure they have information on car seat safety. You want to go to daycare centers. You want to go to Chuck E. Cheese, any place where people may see children in cars, and make sure they have information on car seat safety. And not just that, but what can help the families when it comes to making sure their child is buckled up correctly. You want to start distribution programs. You know, there are a lot of people who would probably donate money or buy a car seat if they thought it would help a family out. Walmart, Target, these places may give car seats to your agencies to help you distribute them to people in the community. We want buckle up events, and safekids.org, you can contact them. Right now with everything that's going on, there's not a lot of buckle up events. I doubt there are any going on. I couldn't find any when I was doing some research, but normally there are buckle up events, and you want to have those events again at places where you see people, and people might not. Walmart is a great place. I'm sure they would work with you and would even donate car seats just to help out. And last but not least, we want strong enforcement of laws. Right now, if a child is not properly restrained, the ticket is like $25, and then they can bring in a receipt and everything's wiped out. $25 might not be a big enough hit. And one of my friends in Indiana was telling me that their law enforcement would actually go to like daycares and schools and park around the area. And as families are leaving, they check car seats. They wouldn't ticket the parents right there. They give them a warning. But what a great way to just make parents aware. Again, some might not even know, but to make sure that the parents are aware. And you want to make sure that law enforcement knows. I've had several families say, well, I was pulled over by the police and they didn't say anything. So we really want to make sure that law enforcement also understands what the rules are and become a part of the solution. And so I went through that kind of quick because I know my time is running out, and I think we want to have a little part for Q&A. Is that true? Okay, did I do good?
All right, I believe we have one question here.
You want to come up?
Let me see.
Can you hear it?
If a parent has a crib or has received bumper pads, what would you suggest they do with those if they receive them at a baby shower as a gift?
Okay, I'm gonna plug. See if I can plug. Okay, can you repeat that?
Sure. If a parent received a set of bumper pads for a crib, either at a baby shower or as a gift ahead of a new baby, what would you suggest they do with those bumper pads?
Oh, that's, I guess I would suggest making them do a craft project and make them into something else. You do not want to put them in your bed. It depends how close you are to the person who gave them to you. If you would like to say anything to them, that can be really pretty awkward, can it? And also, there is some legislation that's gone through the House and not the Senate yet about stopping production of bumpers. So, don't use them. Make them into something else.
All righty. Well, I'm seeing that's all the questions we have. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity. Feel free to contact Tara or I at those addresses.
All righty. Well,
Thanks,
you're welcome. This concludes our program for today. I want to thank Michelle and Tara for being here, and thank you for watching. Please remember that you can access our materials or refer back to this training on demand at any time. Have a great day.